I like to consider myself a mixed media artist and pretty diverse with my approaches. And this marks one of my approaches. I'm really interested in contrast and this idea of showing motion, specifically, I guess, the idea of motion through contrast, and this idea of connecting music and visual arts. And so each of these kind of play off of an idea of vibration and contrast, but it's in this abstract approach. So just a basic oval shape with then very simple dot design with a square that's going off of the theory of thirds, divine proportion, and then same here, this is the spiral, and then also going off of that thirds, one-thirds proportion. Contrast between glossy surface and matte surface. Same over here. I really love the colors that are available in the ceramic material. It's one of the things that draws me to clay specifically, and the fact that you can make clay look in one piece. You can make clay look like water, maybe snow, maybe metal, and maybe plastic, just in one material. And then also over here, this is kind of the idea of air and snow there, so that puffy surface. So I love the chemistry of the material and how I can mix a couple materials together and then they don't like each other and then they puff up and they make a puffy surface. Or there's a high barium content in this glaze that makes it do really crazy halo effects, versus this is also a barium glaze, but it also moves, and the way that it pools and runs, and then the way that it reacts with the glaze next to each other, and it makes it blow out, fan out there. Those are some of the things that really make me excited about color. And so on abstract surfaces, then you look at color and design in this type of work that I do. Here I have a window of many of the different techniques that I like to pursue in my art. Most of them are ceramic. I have a cast aluminum piece here. But again, I consider myself a diverse sculptor. I'm traditionalist in the sense that I seek technique, form, and content, and that's how I approach making artwork. And I'm very in love with technique, and technique is part of the way that I derive content. And then form also is the way to derive content. So it's like content for me, and then technique and form inform that. I'm a potter. I love to make the functional object. I like to play with motifs of that same kind of idea of contrast. So like a ring on your finger, I love the intimacy, this idea that every day somebody picks this glass up, they love it, they love the feel of it, and they get to see it in their hands and turn it and spin it and drink from it. I'm an art potter, so I don't mass produce work. I look at each individual form and how contrast relates to the form, and I love the contrast of, say, the material and how it runs versus that circular shape there, interior versus exterior space, the material of the melted iron here versus the melted copper in that glaze to make that blue versus the color of that clay there. So that's like a pottery side of it. This was really, it started out as a demonstration for one of my classes of a lidded form, hand-built lidded form, because we're teaching all of our classes online now. So this was an approachable assignment to work with my students at home using slabs of clay. But I always like to work my ideas into the clay, and this was using positive versus negative space, similar to how the polka dot on these works as a contrasting vibration. Then too, this creates a contrast and texture that goes on there. And also a nice way to. I like the idea of the object, and specifically I love the metal cast, the history of that. We're looking at 6,000 years of history in this casting world, so I like keeping that tradition going. In this, there is a motif of these clouds that are an ongoing series that I'm working with, and it's this concept that I like to make clouds in materials that are permanent because clouds are very impermanent. So concept contrast or contradiction. So this is a contradiction where the cloud is represented in this metallic, hard-edged material. Dealing with the idea of language of material, something that I really love working with is the contrast between the real object, which is a piece of wood, and then this being porcelain, being hollow cast. This idea that When I make a mold, and this is what this is a plaster mold, and I'm a technician and I love the puzzle that is created by making a mold of an object. This is a mold of a skull that is nine pieces. And so I use plaster molds, similar to how, say, a photographer used the point and shoot. So when I make a mold of an object, I believe conceptually I'm taking it outside of time and I'm preserving that object like a photograph preserves that moment. So when I make a mold of a piece of wood, that wood is going to continue to deteriorate in nature, versus this object here is porcelain. It's extremely fragile. If I was to take this and smash it on the tabletop, it would very easily crush. It's not meant to be used, but if it's protected, it will last millions of years. So I'm taking this out of context and I'm preserving a moment in time, so to speak, but I'm also dealing with the language of material. And so when I make a bridge or a large-scale boat that you could sit in it, but it would break, or a pier, or a tricycle out of porcelain. These are some of the objects I've cast in porcelain. The material enhances the concept of the object, that language of material. So porcelain is the most pure form in clay. It's very hollow, so it has that fragility, but then when I fire it to 2400 or 2375, around there, it becomes forever. So there's that play on that. And I just love with what clay does without glaze on it. When you just have the texture that is pulled off of that mold, and then the color of the clay, I love that, and I do not need to put glaze on this. So it fits into a different category of work. This is large scale, this is in real life scale, so it would be the 9-foot by 4-foot boat made for 6 that you could sit in, all out of porcelain. So then there's that awe-inspiring moment when you notice, oh, that's nothing, that's just a painted boat made out of wood. But then you go, wait a second, look closely, there's a little crack that you can see that occurs in the clay, and you go, whoa, that's all made out of porcelain. I love that aspect of clay. Compass Clay is a really great opportunity for me as an artist to connect what I love about making art with this idea of influencing a positive influence with this world, a creative influence in this world. Early on in my life, I had some deaths in my family that gave me this concept of legacy, and this building and this medium of ceramics gives us a great opportunity of connecting with children specifically and their courageous creativity that they have, and leveraging that and helping them with that through the ceramic material specifically. I teach full-time at Lake Tahoe Community College, and I teach specifically in the 3D arts, so casting, metal fabrication, bronze and aluminum casting, and ceramics, and then occasionally I'll get carried over into teaching art history and design. But that area over there is very focused on the idea of transfer. A lot of ceramics is based on the capacity for your firing. So we have 3 different levels of size that we can offer. The smaller scale for smaller works and smaller bodies of work. And so we use these pretty standard depending on what we have to load. They're all electric, meaning that they heat with an electric element that goes all the way around them. And so that gives the ceramic material a much more prescribed, and you know what's going to happen in the kiln when you're dealing with electric. We also have in the works, we're going to be getting a gas kiln soon, and that's where you deal with carbon monoxide, oxidation. When copper gets exposed to oxygen, it changes certain color, and so on. So we're looking ahead at getting that reduction atmosphere soon. But right now, we work specifically in electric, and we work in 2 different temperatures. We work in the low fire temperature, about 1824 degrees, and then we also do the high fire, which is about 2345 degrees in these kilns here. I love the material because of, one, after you get this piece back, it's a cherished item that somebody loves for the rest of their lives, and it will last thousands of years, honestly. That's the ceramic material. I teach art history, and most of the things that we have to go off of as art historians and archaeologists is clay and stone. It's not paper. Paper goes away. So this is like a forever object, and then the kids just get so into the process, and just like me, every day I open up a kiln, it's like Christmas. It's like a new time, and I can't wait to open up that kiln.